We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
Looks like the rain has gone.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's Boys and Hodgson with the Mankind podcast where we're setting out to prove and doing a damn fine job that there is more than one way to be a man. I'm stoked. The brother that I'm sitting with today, Kenny Mammarella D'Cruz, somebody I've known of, followed, tracked, been in some spaces with over time. Kenny's over in the UK. The Man Whisperer. I get to hang with the Man Whisperer today. And we were trying to find a time when we had actually been in a room together like this. And we're not sure when that would have been, but a long time ago. We also have MKP in common, Mankind Project. Kenny, when did you do the NWTA? How long ago was that?
2005. And we probably first connected a few years later when I was on council in the UK, and I was doing marketing and publicity and stuff. And that's when we first got to know each other. And you've been around in places that I've been around, and on Facebook and in chats and here and there. So always on my radar.
That's right. Yes, that's how we've kind of been. We've been in orbit around each other. Kenny, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
I'm totally chuffed to be here.
Kenny is from a child refugee in Uganda, navigating PTSD, battling OCD, to aiding dying men alongside Mother Teresa in Calcutta. Kenny's journey is both awe-inspiring and educational. He is not just defined by his early challenges. He's been a beacon in personal development for me and thousands of others, pioneering groups since the mid-90s. Today, he's a guiding force behind online men's groups, especially during the pandemic. We'll talk about his groups. His Amazon #1 bestseller, Online Men's Group Success, and his not-for-profit community interest company aim to make men's groups as widespread as 12-step programs. We share goals. God damn, do we share goals. Impressively, Kenny's facilitation program stands alone as the only accredited training offering CPD points for professionals. He's got some really cool media stuff. Newsweek called him the Man Whisperer, so that stuck for sure. Daily Express dubs him a guru of all things men. Tony Parsons of GQ magazine finds solace in his facilitation. And amid his rich tapestry of experiences, there are adventures from skydiving to bungee jumping. And underneath his daredevil exterior lies his most courageous act, embracing love and opening his heart to life's deep connections. How cool is this? Kenny,
I
what's
cringed
men's
in
work?
places.
You cringed.
What is men? Because, I never think about that kind of stuff. I never think about any of that. It's kind of gone. That was the past, and here we are now. And for me, to answer the what is men's work question, I would say it's not about being a man or anything to do with work. It's about being right here and right now, totally present and available to life.
And so, yes, it's not about the work and it's not about men. It's about being right here, right now, totally present to life. But how do we get there? Because damn, if I don't spend a whole lot of time not doing either of those things. So let's talk about what you've learned, right?
I had to learn literally to time travel. So whatever was going on, and I had, let's put it this way. Addiction #1, survival, overthinking, second guessing, fearing, fantasizing, and fixing. That wasn't here and now. that was all about the future, all about who do I need to be to stay out of trouble. That's the scared little boy in me who was abandoned and the man in me wasn't present to take care of him. How do I survive life? How do I fix everything? How do I maintain control? I never had control anyway. So that was all about the future. And I'd be haunted by the past. Without realizing, anything and everything would trigger me from the past. So the time travel was, first and foremost, I needed to breathe myself present and connected. And when I'm present and connected, the man in me can take care of that scared boy in me and not hand him over to anyone and everyone to approve of, so I'm safe. That's my presence, and that's my safe child. And then if I'm triggered, and I am very often triggered, and it's not a problem to survive anymore, it's a gift where I can meet myself in my dark shadow and open up the gold shadow. So as and when I'm triggered, I take a deep breath in and I get present. And then I breathe into the feeling rather than being seduced into the drama in hand. I breathe into the feeling and I follow the feeling right back. And that's the time travel through emotional lines, nothing to think about. And in a split second, I'm back at the scene of the crime. The drama, the trauma, the stage in life, whatever it is from the past that needs my attention, so I can feel it and I can heal it and I can live beyond it. Now, all of that would be a no-go area unless the man in me is present, keeping my child safe.
Masterclass complete.
It took me decades to work that one out.
What a beautiful encapsulation, right? So that the work becomes all about bringing our adult selves present and online, so that all of that fearing, fantasizing, and fixing, and all of that obsessing over the past and being haunted by it comes right into the present moment, so that I can be just present to it. Wow, what an amazing summary of what this work is about. That's so cool. So you said triggered, and triggered is one of those words that's out there in the culture all the time right now, and as if it's something to be scared of, as if it's something to be.
And it's and then there's the no, you can't say that because you're triggering me. You can't look at me like that because you're triggering me. You're doing it wrong. You're causing me harm. You're an abuser. And so it goes on. Oh, come on. What about the experience of life, good, bad, and ugly? I hated it. There's a guy called Ram Dass. I hated it when Ram Dass said, "We are on the earth, so do the earth curriculum." Because I didn't want to be on the earth. I didn't even want to be on a physical body. I wanted to be above it all, especially in my OCD days. Don't come near me. Don't touch me. You're contaminating me. I wanted to just get away with it in my head and not have to deal with anything out of control or vulnerable or contaminating or intimate or physical or emotional. It's like, give me the spiritual bypass. I'm out of here.
That is it, right? So give me the spirit. I identify with that. I think I'm going to just identify with everything. Thanks, Ram Dass, for reminding us. Thanks, Alan Watts, for reminding us. You right. Thank you to all the wise teachers who I will own this as an I statement, who I have wanted to smack across the face repeatedly for telling me things that I didn't want to hear and didn't want to deal with. Yes, there we are. So what do we do how do we, and I think this is a navigation, right? So trigger is a triggering word in the culture, and we are kind of wandering around. I'm making broad statements. I'm wandering around trying not to bump against people, trying not to trigger their stuff. What's the other way of standing and moving through the world, right? That's what I'm trying to figure out. How do we move through the world given this environment?
And it's a really it's like a minefield. I mean, it's a minefield, and anything could go off at any time. And I think this is one thing that can really, sadly, around me, put men in our heads. What if I say it wrong? What if I use the wrong word or term or have the wrong attitude? And so it goes on. And I would say, as a man, in a split second, I can turn into a scared little boy if I say or do the wrong thing, and I think I'm in trouble, because my mind is not vast enough to navigate such detail. I'm too loaded. Even at the age of 59, I am proud to say I am too loaded with testosterone to have that expansive minefield to get it all right with the right words and terms and phrases all the time. So I've learned when to keep my mouth shut. More often than not, I would rather ask questions and be in the question and explore things with people and be in it together. I don't have any answers anyway. If I had answers, I believe I'd be limiting myself. Where the first half of my life was all about trying to have answers, be in control, and do it that way. But doesn't work for me anymore. As soon as I know something, I know I found a limitation. So rather than trying to kind of like avoid the triggers, these days, thankfully, now that I'm in a lot of ways really out the other side from all of the shitty pathway I have had to walk, now I'm out the other side in so many ways. When something comes up, it's more of a, I wonder what wants my attention. And I welcome things coming up because I want more. I want more passion. I want more love. I want more satisfaction. I want more of a buzz. I want more people to hang out with and play with and create with, and even be in pain with.
Yeah.
Because I come alive at the edge. And if I'm going to keep wanting more, then whatever it is that's limiting more from happening is going to come up. It's going to show up in my dark shadow. It's like, you want more of that? Okay, then deal with this. And rather than, oh my God, no, not more pain and process, it's, okay, how am I going to deal with this one? And 9 times out of 10, I'll share it. You know, the groups are on every day online. I've got my best friends. I've got my wife. I've got people who I get to share things with. And it's about buzz sharing things rather than playing the I'm fine, I'm cool, I'm at the top of my game hierarchical nonsense. It's like, no, I would rather share the journey. So I get to know, or I will be silent and I will go into the pain and I'll feel that pain. And I know that the only way out of the pain is through the pain, not thinking about the pain, not Googling the pain. It's like through the pain and out the other side. And then I have met, and it can take a moment.
Yeah.
Then I have been with whatever needs my attention. And I can sit with it, and I can feel it, and I can heal it. And all it's saying is, choose me. Release me, let me go. And once that's gone, it's like it never happened. Yeah, I can probably summon some of it, but not really feel it. And that relieves some more of the dark shadow, and it opens up the possibilities of my gold shadow. And for me, if that's the name of the game, then hey, I'll play. And I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's fun. It's alive.
There, as you were speaking in the beginning part about what it means to kind of go through the world with this, what is asking for my attention mindset, what is seeking my attention. I'm a visual thinker, visual kind of learner. And I was in a place where it's like, okay, I'm going to be on the hard sidewalk with the hard walls and the right angles and the right. That's like my old way of being, right? I want to have boundaries. I want everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had shitty boundaries, but I want to have walls. I want to have walls, right?
Barriers.
I want to have blocks, barriers, hard edges. I want right angles so that I
Yeah.
can understand. But then this new way of being is like, oh, wow, the ground is kind of squishy and things are much more fluid and alive and everything is kind of curving and it's much more colorful and it's much more inviting and scary, right? Like it's a little scarier to be in that kind of messy space. And we'll play with the metaphorical,
on the
like
other side.
The love on the other side. Yes. There it is, right? And
that's something I wouldn't allow either. How have you been with love, would you say, in your life?
Proving myself to get it is
earning it.
Yeah, earning it, right? So my wounds, a lot of my old trauma stuff that I've been working with is around love was scarce. Care for me, love for me was scarce. And so in order to do it, I had two ways of getting it. I either had to perform my way into it, or I had to fuck up enough that somebody would notice me and pay attention to me. Those were kind of my ways of going through the world. But the stance in it now is, after kind of what wants to be seen, what wants to be held, is to look at those stories and say, there was always enough love. Like, no matter what the facts and the details and like all of that stuff is from my mindset to recognize that that's just the stories, my old stories. There was always enough love, and there's enough love for me right now in this moment. No matter what's happening, there is enough love for me right now. That makes me braver. That
wonderful.
Right? Yeah.
I think mine was different in that I was a mummy's boy and the chosen one, eldest and adored and enslaved by the women, responsible for their emotions, couldn't afford to set one foot wrong at any moment, because if I lose my place, that's the end of my life. And then we had a lot of trauma, a lot of drama in our lives, so I had to up my game. And from that, I just learned to give love, and everyone would adore me, and I could never be chucked. Wouldn't receive any, because that would be too vulnerable. But yep, it was a one-sided, lopsided love affair. And it was called survival. And it was manipulation. I didn't even realize it.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful recognition that I've come to too, is that a lot of the coping mechanisms that I developed out of that early stuff, out of all of my early childhood stuff as an adult, those aren't coping mechanisms. Those are manipulation tactics. Right?
Which doesn't make us bad.
Doesn't make us bad. Doesn't make me bad. Yes, it does not.
Survival.
I'm still worthy of love. I still deserve love. I still am here. Right? And it's a different thing now to get called out, get recognized. When my wife sees me, and I've asked her specifically, like, if you see me doing this, starting to do this, just notice it and call it out. Hey, you're doing that thing where, out of your coping mechanisms, out of whatever fear you have going on right now, you're trying to manipulate me or manipulate the kids or manipulate the situation. What is it? What do you need to take care of in yourself?
It's a game changer to be on the same side as everyone. Who needs enemies, eh?
Brilliant. Yes. Talk to me about your men's groups, about the processes that how did you get going doing this, and what does it look like now?
I didn't mean to. I was, I really didn't.
Whoops.
All my dreams came true when I was young. How old was I? It was my first Saturn return. I was about 29. I had a successful business in London, marketing and publicity, world tours with some of James Brown and Nina Simone and, huge stars, and did all the, I mean, I didn't go on tour with them. I did some publicity, did all the merchandise and launched lots of businesses for people. Minor pop star girlfriend, everything was wonderful, and I was living the life that everyone wanted, but it didn't have any space for me. So all my dreams came true, and I thought, okay, I'm out of here. So I officially moved to Fiji. That's what I was supposed to do. But I literally gave my life back to wherever I need to be, whatever I need to do. And it was like, okay, time to move into a bigger life. Don't know what's going to go on. And I just followed. And various coincidences did take me to Fiji. And I worked with an island and a village, and I sat with a lot of elders, and I got to know the women who were really the backbones of the community. And I unlearned so much about myself and what I thought was good, fair, and right. Being English and sussing things out in London didn't set me up for the rest of the world. I had a lot to unlearn. And then I did end up, I did 2 months over 2 different years working with Mother Teresa in Calcutta. And that got me over my obsessive compulsive disorder, because some of the things I was doing with the dying people, literally taking maggots out of one guy's leg and hacking away bits, trying to save his leg, because they wanted to take him to the, what do you call it? The leper colony to chop it off. And dealing with a lot of dying people. And laughing with them and, stuff like that. There was no space for my OCD. This was about life and death and people and the essence of it all. So, I had all my adventures. I had a natural health centre in Sydney, blah, blah, blah. Came back to the UK, and my friends, my closest friends, who I really, really, really missed and loved, but I missed them. And then I noticed that I missed some of them even more when I came back, because they were distracted by money, power, drink, drugs, sex addiction, love addiction, God knows what. And it's like, who have you turned into? Where are my friends? What's going on? And a lot of them didn't know each other. And I just kind of got about just over a dozen in my lounge in London and said, don't know what a men's group is, but I'm starting one and you're in it. And sure, I'll come raving and stuff, but I need to be met at depth. Otherwise you're chucked. And I think not only were they shocked at that after me coming back, being so, I don't know, cocky, but I think some of them were quite freaked out by each other. They were mainly, I think they were all white actually, but they were different classes. And I didn't realise how strong the class system is in England until I left England. And luckily, because of, I don't know, the way that I am and not being white and not being from a certain class, I could kind of get accepted by a lot of people all over the world and the different classes in the UK. So there were the upper class and the middle class and the lower class together in a room, not knowing where to look or what to do or whether they should be friendly and in what way. And there's me making my demands. And somehow, this is like late 90s, somehow it worked. It really, really worked. And they kept coming and coming and changing, and we grew and we laughed a lot and we explored a lot, and life had a different element to it, a different depth. And it was proper adult brotherhood. It was brilliant. And then people told people and people told people, and I kind of took it out of my lounge, and we got some ground rules together and got premises. And this is like, now there are thousands of people who have been coming. I train people, and it's just a thing. And then to fast forward to lockdown, just before lockdown, a guy who works with me contacted me and said, I've got the symptoms. I suggest you isolate. So I was isolating in London and noticed that there was a weird something going on in me. And I kept looking out of my window. We were on in a third story flat, looking out of my window, expecting to see the military because it was quite empty and there were a few people around. And I kept listening, expecting to hear gunfire, like I was in the silence between gunshots. And my behavior was a bit tense and there was something a bit weird going on. Then I realized that emotionally, I'd flashed back to my childhood in Africa when there was curfew, when my family were on the death list, we had to go into hiding. And we lived near Idi Amin, and there was regularly gunfire around us. And yeah, I properly flashed back. And then 2 or 3 days later, after I got this, we went into lockdown, and I thought, right, if I flash back, a lot of other men are going to flash back. And this is dangerous.
Yes.
Who knows what's going to... At least I got aware of what's going on. And my fear was that men would lash out on other people, wife and kids, friends, God knows what, or they'd lash in on themselves, self-loathing, not taking care, God knows what they'd Google, drinking, drugging, whatever. This is dangerous. So from that day, we being people who I've trained in myself, we put on daily online check-in groups for an hour at lunchtime, and it's been every day since then to this day. And it's still growing and people come from all over the world. And what a relief to be able to check in literally with what's going on right now, whether it's I'm considering taking my life or something brilliant's happened that I need to share, or I'm lost, whatever it is. Check in with what's going on and let it go, so there's safety and sanity for the rest of the day. And it was profound and very, very on the edge during lockdown. But man, what a gift we all are to each other. It is absolutely amazing. So yeah, didn't mean to do it. Did it for me.
As so many things, right? As we do so many things, it's almost accidental. So thank you for sharing that story. And I didn't know where we were going, but that's exactly it. And it is played out that way too, right? Like domestic violence increased radically during lockdown. Drug addiction, alcohol abuse increased radically. Deaths of despair, so-called, as you know, have increased and are still increasing around the world, and especially in men. So what is it that gets in the way? And I gotta relate something that, so I was just in a meeting with Bill Kauth, who is one of the co-founders of the Mankind Project, which is almost 40 years old now. And Bill was commenting, you know, what is it that you see going on out there that you want to notice? He's the visionary at large for MKP. No longer has a leadership position, but he's the visionary at large. And he said, you know what I'm really excited about? Africa is opening up. We're building more men's groups in different African nations. We're building more men's groups in South America. We're building more men's groups in Central America. We're starting to build men's groups in Southeast Asia. Imagine if this thing that we do when we get together and tell the truth about who we are, imagine if that becomes a kind of foundational block for building a new society. And when you're speaking about what it means to just get with brothers and check in really, and then what that frees us up to do in the rest of our lives, when we can do that, it does seem like this is a foundational piece of community that we need in order to improve.
Yeah. And the way that you put it there, and the feelings that I had feeling into that is, and this is something that's been said in the groups, it's not just powerful, it's sacred, because it's true, it's collaborative, it's coming from love, we're in it together. And this is not boys reacting, fearing, making a noise, fixing. It's men being together, feeling together, collaborating, coming from love, creating, being in the pain, sharing the journey. That's sacred. And I wonder whether, and I don't know, I wonder whether this is how it was in the old days, sitting around a fire, communities. I wonder, I don't know. I would like to think that it was, and that's how our ancestors were in whichever countries. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. But what could be more natural? And two things are crossing my mind. One is concerns for the future. And the concerns for the future are the way that people are getting wired these days. And I would say, especially men, especially with the use of screens, computers, games, porn, even YouTube, trying to find answers. In the old days, we'd ask each other. Now we ask Google. And it's not about an answer, and it's not about love. It's about the algorithms and stealing eyeballs and getting people to join your group and making money out of it. And the way that people are on medication or self-medication or need the dopamine fix or have all sorts of mental health issues, erectile dysfunction, it goes on and on and on. It's like, where are we going? Who is going to be available and capable? How many boys and men are locked in their rooms in front of a computer, not knowing how to take part in life? And I've got so many people who I've worked with who are incredibly intelligent, brilliant on computers, but they won't even go to the local shop unless it's very early in the morning or very late at night with a hoodie on, scared that anyone will look at them or ask them something or interact with them because they can't. And that's really, really worrying. And there's more and more of that about. So I wonder how. But it is around me. And maybe this is just my experience. Luckily, a lot of these people do come to the online groups because it's part of their world. It's online and it's safe. And it's a big deal to go to the first group. I'm sure everyone feels that before they do their NWTA or before they go to their first men's group or whatever, or their first 12-step meeting or whatever. It's the thought of it and the first step that's really scary. And the other thing that's crossing my mind, which was a huge thing for me to get to know over lockdown, is female hormones. We have our hormones. They have their hormones. I didn't get to know about their hormones until I was locked up. And it's not so much my experience with my wife, but it's more so many men who were with their wives, and my wife's now perimenopausal, but they were with their wives who were perimenopausal, and there was all sorts going on. And in the past, they could split and they wouldn't be in the same home together, and they didn't even know what was going on properly. But man, the education and the way that a woman's moods or brain fog or power or changing gear can turn a strapping man into a squealing, scared boy who is desperate to fix it so he doesn't feel scared anymore. And for a male to think, I need to fix her hormones, it's like, what absolute rubbish.
Yeah, there's so much in the relational. I was going to go there, and I'm glad that that's where you kind of took us. So how do we, because we're talking about brotherhood, right? We're talking about sacred spaces for brothers. And men's work has also given me the tools that I needed. Not that I'm awesome, not that I'm always great, not that I'm perfect, not that any of those things are true, but to be in the fire of a marriage to a woman, that's true, right? That I can recognize when my little boy is online and I'm not acting from, me centered, mature, curious, listening. And also to recognize when my wife is in her own little girl, right? Because a lot of
Mm.
the fire that comes out is when she feels afraid, if there's something
Yeah.
going on, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
how does men's work, what else are we learning about our relationships to women through brotherhood? Why is this important?
My golden line that really changed things with my wife was, do you want me to just listen, or would you like me to do something? Where my instinct, especially from my childhood, being responsible for the emotions of the women, my instinct was, she's telling me because she wants me to fix it. And once I've fixed it, once I've saved her like the hero, then she'll be happy and we'll all be happy and everything will be safe. I didn't realize that was my scared little boy who needed it fixed for my own comfort. And it's such a relief when she can say, no, I just want you to listen. And then I take care of my little boy and I listen and I listen and I can be present with her. I need to remember to keep breathing and keep my heart open and stay in my body. But what a relief for both of us. I can just be with her. And again, I would say that's a huge difference between a boy and a man. A man can be with whatever it is, can be with. Doesn't need to run away from or towards or fix. Just be with it. So I would say that's the big one. Also to say, if my little boy needs her to be a woman while I am a little boy, that is allowed. There will be tragedies. My parents are alive and kicking. I can't imagine what I'll be like when I lose one of them. Mm-hmm. And I'm allowed to be a basket case. And I'm allowed to be a freaked out little boy. And I've got no problem being a man if my wife needs to be a little girl for whatever reason. And we can meet there too. And we can be children together, and we can be adults together. If we have access to all four, we're on to a winner. Otherwise, the rules might be too tight, or we're kidding ourselves, or it's, a blissfully codependent 70s love song type relationship, which is great for 70s love songs, but I wouldn't want to live it.
Great. Yes, here. I absolutely love that. And what comes to mind is like, am I consciously in touch with where we in relationship, and this could be men and women, men and men, am I consciously in touch with where we are right now? Right. And there's a level of self-awareness that goes along with that's kind of the practice, is honing that self-awareness to recognize, oh, I'm coming at my wife trying to control her behavior because my little boy is feeling uncomfortable or scared of something that's going on, right? And when I can get self-aware about it and say, oh, that's where I am. Okay. Check
and I
in
think
from a
for me,
different
to be
spot.
frank, more often than not, I don't know. I need to find out. I can't pretend to know. I'm not supposed to know all the time. How could I? I don't know when I'm tired and hungry, leave alone someone else. I don't know what's happening with my hormones. I can go bonkers and then look up and it's like, oh, the full moon's got a hold of me again. No wonder I'm so manic. But, I generally don't know me. How could I possibly know someone else? It's just like feeling into it, asking, finding out. It's not about control anymore, thank God.
There's a speed thing about this. And before we got onto the podcast, we were talking about living online and living in computers and living all this stuff, right? Many of the things that we're talking about are long, slow conversations, which is that's where community happens. Community happens when we sit down and slow down long enough to actually feel each other, right?
Being in community rather than doing whatever it is to poke at the community with a pointed stick. Need to be in it.
Poke at the community with a pointed stick, right? Which, yes, right. In in the arena? Get in the arena, the poem Invictus, right? Is that it? No.
I was quoting
The
Monty
Man in the
Python.
Arena. Oh, you were quoting Monty Python. That's good too. I mean,
yeah,
it's all there. It's all there in Monty Python.
yeah. Well, hey, it's almost Christmas. I remember in the little town, after refugee camp, I moved to this town at the age of 7. And then I left it at 17 and I moved back at 57. And I remember when The Life of Brian came out, it was banned by our church. I used to be a nice Catholic boy, banned by the church. Then it was banned by the town. We weren't even allowed to have The Life of Brian in our town.
He's not the Messiah. He's a boy.
There's gold everywhere. Just need to look for it. Columbo played a huge role in my life. Do you remember Lieutenant Columbo?
I do. Yes, tell me about that.
Clues everywhere. There are clues everywhere. But I know if I'm in my head or in my fear or in my fan, I'm not going to notice any of them. But life wants to provide goodness. And it might just be someone passing me in the street who freaks me out. And then it's up to me to use that freak out to see what it is that wants to heal so I can open up the next bit. Or it might be someone who, to be frank, I know that all the best people and all the best things in my life have happened beyond my head and through sheer coincidence. Absolute sheer coincidence. Because I've noticed it and I've followed. And what springs to mind, for example, is I was living in Fiji and I was going to Goa. My family are from Goa. We'd never been. We were all born in Africa. Stupid trip to make, cost an absolute fortune. Why go from one paradise to another? But it had to be done. And I kind of bullied them to do it. My plane was delayed in Singapore and I happened to meet an Australian woman. And we hung out, and she happened to be going to her ashram, and it's like ashram, shmashram, whatever. I'm not interested.
Yeah, whatever that is. Yeah, right.
But we got on, and cut a long story short, I ended up going to her ashram because I promised the women in Fiji to buy these skirts that were all the rage and they were made in India. So I had to go to the area that her ashram was in to order all of these skirts so the women could open their market stall and sell these skirts. And that was coincidence number one. And while I was there, I happened to be, when I was leaving to go back to Fiji, I happened to be in Sydney at the same time that their guru was in Sydney. The guru lived in Austria. So it's like, yeah, sure. I'll take, they had these mala beads, meditation beads. Sure, I'll take your mala beads. Why not? So, stayed at the ashram, had a great time. So went to Australia, met the people who were following this guru, took the mala beads. Some people, in those days I had long curly hair and I wore orange t-shirts and they thought it was me. Come on, please, with the sinning I've done. But got to know a family in Sydney who then followed me over to Fiji and asked me to move to Sydney. And that's when I started running groups before the men's groups.
Wow.
And then I ended up having, and I couldn't have worked any of this out. This is life offering me things, me noticing and following through. And, that's a big glamorous story. This could happen on the way to the local store buying my breakfast cereal. I just need to see who or what is put in front of me and why, so life can lead me ahead. It's very different being married because, I can't country hop like I used to, and I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
I love being at home with my wife. All the same, now that I'm hitting 60 next year, I'm on my second Saturn return, and I've got to a place where I'm thinking it's time to hand all my tools over and pass it on. It's just time. I don't know who or how or what's going to show up, but whatever needs to happen, that's the next stage of my life. And it's crazy. People and things are showing up. I put out that animation that's doing really good. I had an article in a really good newspaper in the UK. Now they've offered me a column. A column. That's for educated, grown-up people with loads of letters after their name. Do you know what I mean? But life provides, given half a chance.
Yes, and most of it is just showing up, right? In true Columbo fashion, right? It's the last thing. It's the doorknob thing. Oh yeah. That's great. I'm all set. Oh, but there's just one thing.
One last thing.
There's one last thing. Can you tell me? And then that's where the magic all happens, right? It's that one last thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. My operative
availability to life.
Yes. I don't know how recently I stumbled into it, but the operating question that I keep asking now that's really been helping me is, what am I not seeing? And I've been asking that of people, right? Get to the end of a meeting. Good. Hey, all right. Okay. Everything's great. What am I not seeing here? And there's always something. And people's wisdom just like emerges out of that question. It's like, we're not seeing this. Oh yeah. And there's the secret. Like there's the key that we need in that thing. So that's so cool. So you're going to have a column? Yeah, that is. That's for grown-up people with letters after their names. What are you going to write about?
Well, I don't know how they're going to brand it, because I don't want to be called an uncle, and I don't want it to be about agony. Have you heard, they have agony aunts here, problem columns, things to do with life.
Agony ants. Okay, I got it. Yes.
So what they liked about me is my take on being a man, masculinity, relationships with women, what makes us tick, how to communicate. And they didn't really hear perspectives like, it's just the stuff we're talking about today. It's nothing smart or clever. But for them, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. There might be a male perspective on things. So we can find out about life from a male perspective. So men can be included and write in. So women can write in about their sons, about their fathers, about their husbands. So life stuff. And for me, if the object of the exercise now is to pass the tools on, then that's absolutely amazing that it's shown up. It's the holy grail of publishing, a column of, they've only commissioned 6 to start off with to see what the take is and how people like it. But that's the way it goes. But it's just time. It's time to pass the tools on, and I'm at that funny stage in life, and I don't know how to do it. I really don't know how to. And I wonder. I'm not sure that I would say that I've never really had a role model to show me how to be me or to do man or anything like this. I've taken bits and bobs from all over the place. But what I've found is, for me, it's not about doing, it's about the undoing. Whatever is not true, whatever doesn't feel right. And some of it might have been right in the past. My survival tools saved my life when I was a kid. But if I carry on with them, they cost my life. And that's not an option. I'm not here to survive anymore. It's time for passion. Couldn't get enough. So, I don't like this aging thing, because I used to be indestructible with endless energy. Now I need to remember to do things like move. It's like, what? And I blame computers for this one. It's like, it's unnatural to be, I wasn't put on this planet to be a typist. It's just like, it's not healthy. It's not right. So I need to consciously take care of myself in movement and diet. And I guess more than anything, my environments, my inner environment and what I think and feel and allow, my outer environments, the company I keep, the food I put in my body. I need to take responsibility for these things and really prepare for the next stage in life. Whatever that means.
Well,
do you know what that means? How are you doing it?
Yeah, I'm a couple steps behind you still with I'm 52, so I'm just a little bit younger than you, and I won't call you uncle or brother or anything like that.
We might get mysteriously disconnected from this show if you do.
Yeah, I think that I'm still trying to I'm still building and still trying to tie things together. And we're in a different stage. We have two teens that are kind of on the edge of flying the coop. So learning I'm in the letting go stage. I'm in like simultaneously building in one part of my life and letting go in another part of my life with the kids, learning how to say, now it's up to you to make your choices and feel the consequences of your choices. And I will keep offering all that I have in wisdom, all that I have in questions to keep seeing. But as you were speaking about the environment, and we're not meant to be this way. We're not meant to be typists, right? We're not meant to be typists. What's the more beautiful world that you envision? Like, if your vision of the world were happening right now, what else would that look like?
For me, it's very simple. It's conscious community, caring and sharing. That doesn't mean that we all have to know and do it right. It means sharing the journey. But it's simply caring, sharing, conscious community, growing together, telling the truth, showing up rather than showing off. And I believe there's a lot of trouble that's being created by the showing off. And I think about social media. I think about mainstream media. I think about stuff that's on TV, stuff that's in the press. It's all so dramatic. And so many people just feel less than, competitive, depressed, lost, couldn't possibly. How much of it is true? But to be able to show up raw, getting everything wrong even, doesn't matter. At least that's available. But just to show up and be part of, be held, be listened to. You know, the strapline we use for the online groups, well, all the groups, is we hang out, be heard, and get real. Very, very simple.
Nice.
That's it. So that means connection. That means space for connection. Being, as you said earlier on, rather than doing. And I would say my weakest point by far is use of computers. It's not physical. It's somewhere in cyberspace, and it does my head in. And also, to be frank, I despise the trickery of it, because everyone can be an expert in whatever they want by knowing how to fiddle around with computers. And it's all about power and money and followings and status and things like that, rather than actually knowing who I am and being able to share some of the goodness, rather than, how do I want to be seen? How do I want to live?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be an expert in so and so. And then it's just algorithming it there. And some of my clients are so-called leaders of men, or in the public eye. And to be frank, a lot of the time, especially when I first meet them, I think, yeah, you've got a lot of power and status and you're full of shit. And I'll take them on sometimes, because at least we can make some sense with who they are and where they're coming from, so they can spread some goodness rather than just spreading some more shit for their ego's sake because their manager tells them to, or their ego tells them to, or whatever it is. Power these days can be very dangerous and very often unearned. The online course I'm going to launch, I have no idea how it works, or how Kajabi works, or how sales funnels and e-marketing and all of that works. And I've got a history of attracting people who, emotionally, my little boy would want these people to save me. It's only after my wife really wagging the finger and being totally right and saying, look at who you've attracted to save you, and you need to take care of your little boy rather than offering them to these boys. And most of the people who I've attracted to do my computer stuff with me have generally been somewhere on some spectrum, or they smoke far too much dope, or whatever it is that's going on. They're just wired different to me. And I don't get what they're doing. I can't communicate with them. And I've got some nasty little patterns that I hope to God I've broken now, because the bloke that I'm working with now is absolutely wonderful. But my God, the history I have with, maybe they're my shadow somehow, but they're definitely the computer people. Save me. I'll take care of this, that, and the other for you. You take care of that for me. And it's like, it's never, a deal like that couldn't work. But that is a part of my shadow that I really, really fought to see. And I've avoided the whole computer thing. And it's like, not again. Good people. Good people.
Yeah.
They don't mean harm. We're just wired differently, or we're in different places and clearly each other's shadow or something. So I think as that comes to an end, I've finally attracted the right people to do that for me. And you know what? I'm not going to get my head around it. I'm not going to do it. I'll do, even in the recording of the modules for the training, it's like, I'm not going to be the smart ass up there. Everything was in conversation with the best facilitators and the best people I know. So we're sharing it and we're living it and we're talking about it rather than preaching it in a hierarchical way. Because if we're not living what we're selling or sharing, then we should shut up. Was that a big cover up for my shadow there? Did I just glamorize?
No, yes, no, yes, no. No. What are we not seeing here? That's
so exactly.
Kenny,
that's what it brought up.
Right. And I know that I'm not seeing everything. And I think maybe if we spent more time just kind of wandering around saying, I don't know. I wonder what else would show up for us. I don't know. Kenny, we're getting to the top of the hour here. How should folks listening to the podcast learn more about who you are and follow you? Speaking of computers, how should people follow you on social media, Kenny?
I wish I knew. I am I am on my YouTube's great. That's where the animation's on. I don't know what it's called. I could look it up, but mensgroups.co.uk for the men's groups, and that's where the groups are on every day, the online groups. And there's elder men speak and young men speak and dad speak and whatever. And then for my own stuff and for the online training, it's the manwhisperer.co.uk. And I will make sure I'll have a word that there's a summit or something. And then, there's a 1-day summit. And then there are 7 modules that I don't know. I'll be carted out and I'll do my bit. But that's all going to be on the manwhisperer.co.uk. Do you know what? I'll be totally honest. I don't care. Just show up and let's hang out. Sort out the computer stuff yourself. I'm not going to pretend I know. I'm running away and squealing like a weasel here.
Because
nothing quite like honesty.
And that's okay, right? I mean, even some of the great gurus, the Tim Ferriss, the 4-Hour Workweek, right? It's like, don't do what you're not good at. Do what you're good at, and find people to do the stuff that you're not good at, right? Those things, so that we can hang out and be present to one another and share what's true. I think that's it. That's where the value is. Kenny Mammarella D'Cruz, my brother, it is so good to be connected to you. I am glad that we had the time to have this conversation, and know that even if you don't see me online, I'm out here shouting you up and supporting you and loving you. So thank you for the work that you do, brother.
It's been a blast to hang out with you. Such a relief to just have a laugh and tell the truth and bitch like this.
So look in the show notes for links for all of Kenny's stuff, and keep track of him. And I look forward to tracking down your column when it comes out. And we'll see y'all next time on the Mankind Podcast. Thanks for being here.
Take care. Bye.
This has been the Mankind Podcast, produced in association with the Mankind Project USA. And I personally want to thank our guests for joining us today and imparting their wisdom from their experiences in this amazing journey called life. Now, the fee for this episode is simple. If you found gold and insights that you believe could benefit your loved ones and those you care about, be sure to share it with them. And of course, remember that life doesn't happen to us. It happens for us, so long as we rip the pen out of fate's hand and become the author of our own story. So my friend, pick up the pen and we'll see you next week. Lots of love.